Modern Family is absolutely one of my favorite sitcoms. The acting is excellent, the writing is clever, and the cast has superb chemistry. And this might be a hot take, but I think they actually execute the mockumentary style show even better than The Office does. I can honestly prattle on endlessly about everything I enjoy about this show, and perhaps I will in another video, but today I want to talk about Jason Francis Pritchett, better known as Jay. Jay, at first blush, is almost the model stereotype of a curmudgeonly boomer. An old school boomer who served in Vietnam with a mostly old school and traditional set of beliefs. He's very successful, building a comfortable life for himself and family as the CEO and founder of Pritchett's Closets and Blinds, and eventually Dog Beds by Stella. And while Jay isn't a terrible person by any means when the show begins, let's just say he definitely has some work to do on himself. By the end of the series, however, he's likely had one of the best character arcs in sitcom history, maybe even all of fiction. It's impossible to really discuss Jay's growth over the years without discussing his relationship with his son Mitchell. Mitchell is a gay man in a relationship with Cameron, and while Jay isn't really blatantly homophobic at any point, coming to grips with his son's sexuality is clearly a sticking point for him in the earlier seasons. Another area where we immediately see Jay lacking in is his lack of sensitivity for the cultural differences between him and his wife and stepson, Gloria and Manny. As the loving but sometimes grumpy patriarch of the Pritchett family, Jay is the quintessential man's man, a provider, no-nonsense scotch-drinking guy that will tell you how it was back in his day without being asked. Jay doesn't become a saint overnight after a heartfelt moment with his son or wife, as might be the case in other shows. Jay grows in inches over the years, and his growth isn't always linear, reminding us that he is in fact human and trying his best but not always succeeding. A good example of Jay's early growth is him simply refusing to publicly acknowledge his son's sexuality at first, literally introducing Cam as Mitchell's friend to his buddies, hiding behind a convenient excuse that while he himself was fine with it, his buddies probably wouldn't be. This obviously deeply hurts Mitchell, who, like any son, wants his father's approval and affection. From the moment of needless shame and embarrassment, Jay would eventually grow to the point where he walked his son down the aisle. And honestly, that single act, walking Mitchell down the aisle, is not just a big gesture in terms of the show's narrative. It's almost like the writers giving us a visual representation of Jay's entire journey as a father and as a man. Because think about where he started. This guy who couldn't even spit the word boyfriend out of his mouth when Cam was standing right there, to end up in front of everyone, his family, his friends, the world, saying, basically without actually saying, "This is my son and I'm proud of him." That's not some cheesy Hallmark moment. That's years of slow, uncomfortable, sometimes ugly work that Jay had to do on himself to get there. But Jay's story doesn't stop with Mitchell, because as much as Mitchell's sexuality is a challenge for him at first, Jay is constantly being tested by the people around him. Gloria, for example. Obviously, Jay marrying Gloria set him up for every cliche old guy with a younger hot wife joke in the book, and the show leans into that, to be sure, because you can't not lean into that, it's right there. But over time, what you realize is that Gloria is not just a trophy wife, and Jay's marriage is not some midlife crisis fantasy. Jay actually has to grow up again inside his marriage, because Gloria forces him to be uncomfortable. She's loud, she's passionate, she's unapologetically Colombian, and she has no problem calling Jay out on his stubbornness every single time. And it's funny because Jay's stubbornness is his armor. That grumpy old guy exterior is really just a shell he hides in, so he doesn't have to deal with feelings. But Gloria doesn't let him stay in that shell. She'll drag him out of it, kicking and screaming. Whether it's about understanding Manny's melodramatic, poetry reciting soul, or embracing her traditions that he at first brushes off as weird. And what's beautiful is you can actually see Jay learning to shut up and listen. It takes years and he screws it up over and over, but you see him start to realize that love is not just about providing money and security. Love is about meeting the other person halfway. That right there is what makes Jay so compelling. He's not perfect, he screws up constantly. He gets jealous, he makes outdated jokes, he gets defensive when he feels like the world's moving on without him. But unlike some sitcom dads who stay stuck in their archetype, Jay keeps surprising you. He keeps bending, softening, reshaping himself, even when he doesn't want to. I think that's why his arc feels so earned, because it's not like the writers hit a reset button every episode. What Jay learns in one season quietly carries into the next. Take Manny for instance. When Manny's introduced, Jay honestly doesn't know what to do with this kid. Here's his overly romantic, espresso drinking little boy who'd rather write a sonnet than throw a football. And Jay honestly doesn't know how to deal with that. His default reaction is to mock him or try to toughen him up. But little by little, Jay realizes Manny doesn't need to be toughened up. Manny needs to be celebrated for being exactly who he is. And Jay, this old dog who's supposed to be set in his ways, actually learns to do that. He starts supporting Manny, sometimes in his awkward Jay way, but you can see the pride building. That's growth. Another quiet but powerful indicator of Jay's growth, Jay as a grandfather. The way he interacts with Joe, with Lily, and just with the whole next generation of kids. It's like this quiet redemption arc. Because Jay wasn't exactly the most emotionally available dad to Claire and Mitchell when they were little, he even admits it sometimes. He was working, he was absent, he was of his era. But with the grandkids, you can see this tenderness come out of him. It's almost like he's trying to rewrite history in the best way he can, making sure those kids never doubt how much he loves them. That's not something the show hammers you over the head with, but if you watch closely, it's definitely there. And by the time you reach the end of Modern Family, Jay is honestly unrecognizable compared to season 1. Not in the sense that he's a totally different character. He still grumbles, he still makes his little sarcastic remarks. He's still Jay, but he's evolved. He's cracked open that hard exterior, and what comes out is this guy who's not just a provider, not just a patriarch, but a guy who's allowed love, messy, complicated, vulnerable love, to reshape who he is. That's why I think Jay's arc might be one of the best in sitcom history. Because it's not flashy, it's not full of big dramatic speeches. It's a slow burn. It's a man in his 60s proving that you are never too old to change. You are never too old to grow. And in a genre where so many dads are just static characters who exist to roll their eyes or hand out punishments, Jay Pritchett shows us that even the most stubborn among us can evolve if they're willing to do the work. So when I think about Modern Family, to me it unquestionably deserves to stand shoulder to shoulder with shows like The Office or Parks and Rec. And that in no small part has to do with how well the characters are written. But specifically, I always come back to Jay. Because Jay Pritchett isn't just funny, he's real, he's raw, he's uncomfortable, complicated, and sometimes he's just infuriating. But he's also proof that sitcoms, even the lighthearted ones, can show us something deep about what it means to be human. And in Jay's case, it's growth. Growth does not have an expiration date. And maybe that's why, when I rewatch Modern Family, it's not just the laugh out loud moments that stick with me. It's those little Jay moments, when he tries, when he stumbles, when he surprises you, that makes me fall in love with the show all over again. Now, I may have let it slip a couple times in the video that I am a software engineer, and I'm bringing it up now for a very specific purpose. I do want to introduce you to candorcloud.com. It is a cloud storage web app that I built myself from scratch and still working on. And the reason I am mentioning it is because rather than push a Patreon where I feel the need to come up with creative incentives and rewards for my patrons, I decided I would rather provide you direct value. So if you would like to support this channel and help it grow, please go to candorcloud.com. If you want, you can just check it out by starting with the free tier, 10 gigabytes for free, 100% free. We also have monthly, annual, and lifetime plans where you can just make one purchase and you have the storage for the lifetime of the service or your lifetime, whichever ends first. And it is a great way to support this channel. And like I said, new features are still being worked on. Currently in the paid tiers, there's a music player, a video player, and client-side zero knowledge encryption. So please check it out, and there'll be more to come. Thank you. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Share with your friends.